Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow up on that line of questioning, General, no question the surge was successful in Iraq and great gains have been made, but your testimony says that those gains are, quote, fragile and reversible, end quote. As I said to you earlier today in my office, my nephew, Matthew Brewster, is a Marine in Mosul right now, and I'm interested in the question of Iraq. There was a bombing there yesterday of significant proportion still, yet some members that have been there in the last 3 weeks have said that the policing versus the war fighting is the primary problem, and that law enforcement there is more the issue than a lack of our warfighting capability. So as we transition more and more out of Iraq and into Afghanistan, give us a feeling from your perspective of how much security and warfighting capability is still necessary for us in Iraq to leave it in the condition that those security forces in Iraq will be able to maintain the progress that has been made so that it is not fragile and reversible.
Well, it's a very good question, and again, obviously there has been clearly very substantial progress in Iraq. When you go from 160 attacks per day to now an average of 10 to 15, obviously that represents a significant degree of progress. But having said that, for all the reasons that I mentioned in my opening statement, which include the resilience of al-Qaeda in Iraq, although considerably diminished, it retains a capability, and it does retain a desire to reestablish its networks, and it does periodically still have the capability to carry out the kind of horrific attacks that it carried out yesterday. I talked to General Odierno, in fact, not long before coming over here. They're obviously going through the intelligence, doing a very, very rigorous job of trying to determine which network was reestablished, how it was able to carry out the attacks that it did. In some respects, some of this is actually a bit of a result of the relaxed security to some degree over the very, very tight security and the innumerable checkpoints and walls and barriers and all the rest of that, some of which has been taken down over time as, in fact, the security has been improved. And so the maintaining the vigilance and the discipline in the actions, particularly of local Iraqi security forces, who are the ones on the checkpoints and securing these very sensitive locations, is very important. We have seen, in this case, we do know that, for example, that a network that provides foreign fighters from Tunisia through Syria to Iraq was reactivated or reestablished after the foreign fighter network inside Iraq was damaged very significantly over the course of the last 6 months or so. And we know that, for example, 4 of the suicide bombers in the past couple of weeks were Tunisians, and we captured one of the facilitators. There may be some others that have come through. And again, this is the kind of intelligence focus that is taking place to determine, again, what network has been able to carry these out and what actions need to be taken against them. Those actions will be taken, though, with considerably larger and more capable Iraqi security forces. They are carrying out the vast majority of the security operations at this point. We are well into the process of withdrawing additional forces, the remaining coalition forces going home, gradually coming out of the cities in anticipation of the deadline this summer in the security agreement, and continuing on with the other aspects of the security agreement. The Iraqi security forces number some 600,000 now. And again, they are considerably more capable than they were just a couple of years ago. But there will be continued attacks of this type over time. It is going to take a considerable time for Iraq to eliminate all of the remaining elements And you see, in fact, in that region, periodic attacks of this type, even in countries that in which there are relatively small cells of extremists and so forth. So this is why we say it continues to be, the progress continues to be fragile and reversible, and it is why we say that it requires continued vigilance and continued effort. And again, we think the policy adopted for this is the appropriate one. It's something that General Odierno and I and Ambassador Crocker supported.
Mr. Chairman, I want to pursue Pakistan and the Fatah, but I'll do that on the third round.